My name is Olivia Hayes. From the 42nd floor of my office, the city looks like a painting, streets glowing under the morning sun, cars gliding like toy figures, people moving fast, chasing time. I sip my coffee, the rich bitterness cutting through the silk of my calm exterior. On the surface, my life looks perfect. Tailored suits, a glass office overlooking Manhattan, and the kind of silence money can buy. But perfection is always relative. What they see now is not what they used to see. I set my mug down, brushing a hand over my satin blouse, when my phone buzzed on the desk. I glanced at the screen and froze. It was a name I hadn't seen in years. Claire Williams. The girl who once laughed the loudest when others mocked me. The one who spread the whispers, made sure my dreams were nothing but a punchline in our small town. For a moment, my chest tightened, memories tugging at scars I thought had healed. A part of me wanted to ignore it, let the past rot where it belonged. But another part, the stronger part, the woman I became, leaned forward and opened the message. Olivia, I heard about your success. I'm in the city. Can we meet? I let out a short, ironic laugh. Funny how tables turn. They mocked my life once. Now they want a seat at my table. And I'm not sure yet if I'm ready to share it. I wasn't always Olivia Hayes, the woman people envy today. Back then, I was just Olivia, the small-town girl with second-hand clothes, a broken-down car, and dreams that didn't fit the life people thought I deserved. High school was the hardest. I still remember walking into the cafeteria with my notebook tucked against my chest. I used to scribble designs, clothes, shoes, even sketches of offices I wished I could work in someday. To me, those pages were magic. To them, comedy. Look, it's Project Runway. Discount edition. Claire Williams would snicker, loud enough for the whole table to laugh. Her friends joined in, mimicking my walk, mocking the way I patched up my old sneakers with duct tape. Each laugh was a dagger. I'd sit alone, pretending the lump in my throat was just food caught the wrong way. Pretending my hands weren't shaking as I turned the pages of my notebook, shielding my dreams from their ridicule. Even at home, things were much better. My parents loved me, but they were practical people. Olivia, my father sighed one night, stop chasing these silly ideas. Focus on a real job, something stable. Dreams don't pay bills. I felt invisible, misunderstood, unwanted. The only person who ever looked at me differently was my grandmother, Evelyn Hayes. One winter evening, when I broke down in her kitchen, she reached across the table and placed her wrinkled hand over mine. Liv, she whispered, don't let their laughter define you. The world mocks what it doesn't understand. Take this. She unclasped a small silver locket from her neck and pressed it into my palm. Inside was a tiny inscription. Keep going. That locket became my anchor. Whenever the sting of humiliation threatened to drown me, I held it tight, reminding myself that the world's cruelty was never the final word. The next morning, I walked into school with my head a little higher. Their laughter didn't stop, but my tears did. Something inside me had shifted. And a few months later, with that same locket around my neck, I packed my things into that beat-up car and drove away from that town, scared, broke, but finally free. That was the day I promised myself I would build a life so bold, so undeniable, that one day, the very people who mocked me would choke on their envy. The city didn't welcome me with open arms. When I first arrived in New York, I rented the tiniest studio apartment you could imagine, walls so thin I could hear my neighbor arguing with her boyfriend at 3 a.m. and a leaky faucet that sang through the night. My bed was nothing more than a thrift store mattress on the floor, and my meals? Instant noodles, dollar pizza, and coffee strong enough to burn a hole in my stomach. But freedom tasted better than luxury. I worked 3 jobs, waitressing at a diner, folding clothes at a department store, and cleaning offices at night. Every shift was exhausting, but every paycheck went into a separate jar labeled my future. On the nights I wasn't too tired, I'd pull out my grandmother's locket, set my notebook on the kitchen counter, and sketch designs until dawn. It wasn't easy. There were days when self-doubt gnawed at me. I remember one night, staring at my reflection in the cracked bathroom mirror, whispering to myself, maybe they were right. Maybe I'm not enough. My eyes stung with tears, but then I'd grip that locket and remember Evelyn's words. Keep going. My turning point came at the diner. One afternoon, I was sketching on a napkin during a slow shift when a customer noticed. Her name was Margaret Lewis, a well-dressed woman in her 50s with sharp eyes softened by kindness. Did you draw this? She asked, pointing at the napkin. Embarrassed, I nodded. She studied it for a long moment. You've got something special here. Ever thought about fashion school? I laughed bitterly. School costs money. I can barely afford dinner. She leaned forward. Sometimes talent just needs one believer. Come see me at this address. She slid me her business card. Margaret Lewis. CEO, Lewis and Company. Apparel. That card became my lifeline. With Margaret's mentorship, I got a scholarship to a small design program. She guided me, critiqued my work, and opened doors I never knew existed. I worked harder than ever, long nights stitching fabric, sketching until my fingers cramped, learning not just design, but business. My first small victory came when a boutique agreed to sell 3 of my designs. They sold out within a week. I cried in that little studio, clutching my locket, whispering, "It's happening." From there, it snowballed, slowly, painfully but surely. Freelance projects, small collections, then bigger contracts. With Margaret's backing, I started my own line, quietly, discreetly. And through it all, I stayed silent about my success. On social media, I posted modest pictures, coffee cups, sunsets, books. Never boardrooms, never runway shows. When people from back home asked, I simply said, I'm doing okay. Because I didn't want them to see me until I was undeniable. I wanted their mockery to meet a wall of truth so powerful it left them speechless. And little did I know, that moment was coming sooner than I thought. The message from Claire wouldn't leave my mind. For days, it sat there in my inbox like a ghost from the past, daring me to open the door I had locked years ago. Finally, I replied with 3 words, "Come by tomorrow." The next afternoon, I sat in my office, a spacious corner suite in Midtown, walls lined with shelves of fashion books, abstract art, and framed photos from the runway shows my designs had headlined. A golden sun poured through the floor-to-ceiling windows, bouncing off the glass desk where my grandmother's locket now rested like a silent witness. At precisely 2 o'clock, the receptionist buzzed me. "Ms. Hayes, you have visitors." "Send them in," I said, my voice calm, though my pulse thudded in my ears. The door opened. Claire Williams walked in first, dressed in a blazer that tried too hard to look expensive. Behind her, 2 more familiar faces appeared, high school classmates who once laughed the loudest. For a moment, the room went still. Their eyes swept across the office, the sleek furniture, the awards displayed on the wall, the giant portrait of my first collection hanging proudly near the window. "This is your office?" Claire finally breathed, her voice thin. I leaned back in my chair, folding my hands. "Yes, mine." They exchanged looks, confusion flickering into disbelief. "I thought last we heard, you were struggling," one of them stammered. I tilted my head, a smile tugging at my lips. Struggling? That's what you hoped, wasn't it? The silence that followed was sweeter than any applause. I stood, walking slowly toward the wall where my company's logo gleamed in polished steel. Hayes and Company. "This," I said, gesturing around the room, "is what struggling looks like when you don't give up." Their faces flushed crimson, eyes darting between each other as if searching for escape. But there was nowhere to run. Claire finally cleared her throat, her voice trembling. "Olivia, I didn't know you had become this successful." I turned, meeting her gaze directly for the first time in years. "Of course you didn't know. Because I never told you. I let you believe what you wanted, that I was nothing. While all along, I was building everything." The weight of those words hung in the air. I walked back to my desk, picked up the locket, and held it between my fingers. "Do you remember how you used to laugh when I carried my sketchbook? How you told me I'd never make it?" Claire looked down, her cheeks pale. We were just kids, Olivia.
I,
I didn't mean. Yes, you did. I cut her off softly but firmly. And that's okay. Because your laughter became fuel. Every insult, every joke, it all pushed me harder. I set the locket back on the desk, its silver glint catching the sunlight. You mocked my life once. And now you stand in the middle of it, wishing it was yours. They couldn't even argue. Their silence was the confession. For the first time in my life, I saw fear and envy in their eyes instead of scorn. And I realized this wasn't revenge. This was justice. The silence in the room stretched until it felt like glass ready to shatter. Finally, Claire spoke, her voice small. Olivia, we didn't come here to hurt you. We came because we need your help. I raised an eyebrow. Help? From me. The irony almost made me laugh. Years ago, they wouldn't have handed me a glass of water if I were dying of thirst. Now they were here, standing in my office, asking for favors. What exactly do you need? I asked, though I already knew. Claire shifted uncomfortably. I've been trying to start a small business, but it's harder than I thought. People won't take me seriously. I was hoping maybe you could invest. I leaned back in my chair, studying her. The girl who once mocked my notebook now needed my pen to sign her future. I'll consider it, I said evenly, but only under one condition. Her eyes lit up. Anything. You start by apologizing. Not just to me, but to yourself. Admit that you wasted years belittling others because you were afraid to chase your own dreams. Own it. Until you do that, no money in the world will help you. She swallowed hard, nodding slowly. I turned to the second visitor, Jake Miller, who had once called me Nobody Hayes in front of half the school. And what about you? Why are you here? He shifted in his seat.
I need a job.
Things haven't worked out for me. I thought maybe. I cut him off gently. You want me to hire you? Then prove you've changed. You used to bully people weaker than you. If you want to work here, start by volunteering at the community center I fund downtown. Show me you can lift others up instead of tearing them down. Only then will I consider bringing you into my company. His face flushed, but he nodded. Finally, I looked at the third one, Megan, who had once spread the ugliest rumors about me. She hadn't spoken a word until now. Tears welled in her eyes as she whispered, I was cruel to you, Olivia. I regret it every day. I don't need money or a job. I just need forgiveness. For a moment, my chest tightened. This was the hardest one, because forgiveness isn't something you can demand. It's something you have to earn. I hear your apology, I said softly. But forgiveness isn't words, it's actions. If you truly regret it, go back to our hometown. Mentor a girl who reminds you of me. Protect her the way you never protected me. That's how you'll earn my forgiveness. The three of them sat there, stunned. I folded my hands, my voice calm but unshakable. These are my terms. Not because I need power over you, but because growth requires accountability. I won't let you use me as an escape from the lessons life is trying to teach you. For once, they didn't argue. They nodded, humbled, changed, or at least beginning to. And in that moment I realized, the real victory wasn't that they envied me. It was that I no longer needed their approval. After they left my office, silence settled again. Only the faint hum of the city below filled the air. I walked to the window, gazing at the skyline glowing under the afternoon sun. For years, I imagined this moment, facing the people who mocked me, showing them what I had built. I thought it would feel like triumph, like fireworks bursting in my chest. But instead, it felt like peace. Not because I humiliated them, but because I no longer needed to. I picked up my grandmother's locket from the desk, the silver warm in my palm. The engraving inside, "Keep going," had carried me through sleepless nights, heartbreak, and hunger. It was more than words. It was a promise I had made to myself when the world tried to break me. And today, I finally felt like I had kept that promise. Later that week, I got an email from Claire. No excuses, no defensiveness, just a genuine apology and a photo of her attending a small business seminar. Jake sent me a picture of himself at the community center, helping kids with after-school programs. Megan wrote me a handwritten letter saying she had started mentoring a teenage girl back home who reminded her of me. Were they perfect? No. But they were trying. And that was enough for me. I sat in my office late one evening, watching the city lights flicker like stars. My reflection stared back at me in the glass. No longer the girl with trembling hands and patched-up sneakers, but a woman who had fought, endured, and risen. For so long, their laughter defined me. Now, my success defined itself. I closed my eyes, holding the locket against my chest, and whispered a thank you to Evelyn, to the girl I once was, and to the woman I had become. Because the truth was simple. They mocked my life once. Now they envy me, and I finally envy nothing.